a double chin I keep
No,
getting
I
though.
know. I have mine too, and I was just like, that's why I kind of went a little lower because otherwise I'm looking down at the computer.
So we need to be lower? I
Yeah,
thought we
because if
needed to
we're
be higher.
lower, then we're
'Cause I
looking
tell
up,
you.
and then it won't show as much.
Well, no, because I learned this at a painting thing.
Hmm.
And she said if you look up, it tightens it.
Yeah.
So, like when you're doing pictures, tilt your chin up.
Yeah.
But I don't want to look down
No.
because that's her. Are you recording?
I
You should leave that in there.
You want me to leave that? It could be one of the bloopers at the end.
Yeah. But anyway, since you're recording, this is Essay with the Author Sesh Corner, and I am with my co-host, Wren Nightingale, and
Hello.
today we are doing educational stuff, going over outlines and
And plotting.
plots. Yes, I don't know.
Yeah.
Something with outlines. Uh, but yeah, okay. So, a book outline is a roadmap or blueprint for a book that serves as a skeleton detailing the structure, plot, characters, and scenes to organize ideas and maintain flow. Outlines can vary from simple one-page summaries to detailed visual mind maps, and their primary purpose to provide a guide, not to write the entire book. Common forms include linear outlines, which use headings and subheadings, and visual outlines, which use diagrams and images.
So, what to include is an overview, which is a brief summary or a single sentence distillation of the entire book. Some main points, like broad headlines for content, which are often organized hierarchically. That's a hard word. Chapter summaries, a few sentences to a paragraph for each chapter, outlining its purpose and content. Plot and characters, which have key stages, turning points, and character arcs, which include protagonist's journey from beginning to end, and supporting information, which include details like research, case studies, or examples for nonfiction and backstory or world building for fiction.
So, how to create an outline. Number one, brainstorm. Start with single overarching idea and expand on it, jotting down all the relevant thoughts without judgment. Two, choose a structure. Decide on a story structure, such as a 3-act structure, beginning, middle, end, for like a novel. Three, flesh out the plot and characters. Detail the key stages of your plot and the development of your characters. 4, organize ideas. Arrange your main ideas and supporting points in a logical, sequential order using linear lists or visual mind map. 5, add detail for each chapter or section. Write a few sentences that summarize the key events, information, or arguments that will be covered. 6, review and adjust. Read through your outline, identify gaps, and make any necessary adjustments to ensure a clear and effective roadmap for your writing. 7, the distinction between pantsers and outliners. Understand whether you thrive on spontaneity or prefer detailed planning in your writing process. 8, the importance of a story structure. Discover why a solid framework is crucial regardless of your writing style, because everybody's got a different writing style. 9, Dean Koontz classic story structure. Learn the 4-step approach that transforms Jerry Jenkins' career. Okay, that was like a lot of tongue twisters in that one.
It was.
10, a 6-step method to outline your novel. Gain practical steps to distill your idea. Choose a structure, develop characters, flesh out your plot, conduct research, and start writing. 11, the role of character development and plotting. Explore how well-crafted characters can drive your narrative forward. 12, tips for effective research. Learn how to add authenticity to your story without overwhelming it with unnecessary details. 13, strategies for beginning your novel. Find out how to craft an engaging opening that hooks readers from the start. And 14, balancing planning and flexibility. Understand how to create a roadmap for your novel while allowing room for creative discovery.
So there's some winning strategies for your novel outline. Don't mistake a story structure for an outline because, regardless whether you're an outliner or a pantser, you need a structure. The classic story structure, created by bestselling author Dean Koontz, changed a lot of careers and catapulted people from a mid list genre novelist to a best selling author. It's simple, so he advises 1. Plunge your main characters into terrible trouble as soon as possible. That trouble will look different depending on your genre. For a thriller, it might be life or death. For romance, it might mean a heroine choosing between two suitors. It must be the worst trouble you can imagine for your lead character and carry stakes dire enough to justify a book length story. 2. Everything your character does to try to get out of that trouble makes it only worse. Avoid the temptation to make life easy for your protagonist. Every complication must be logical, not the result of coincidence, and things must grow progressively worse. 3. Eventually, things reach a point of apparent hopelessness. Even you should wonder how you're ever going to write your character out of this. Make the predicament so hopeless, it forces your lead to take action, to use every new muscle and technique gained from facing all that trouble to become heroic, and prove that things only appeared beyond repair. And then finally, for number 4, everything your character has learned through all that struggle and failure gives him or her what they need to win the day or fail, occasionally, not often. A sad ending resonates with readers. Reward readers with the payoff they expected to keep your hero on stage taking action. Give them a finish worthy of their investment of time and money in your novel.
Next, distill your novel idea into one sentence. This might also serve as your elevator pitch. What you'd share with publishing professional between the time you meet him on the elevator and the time he gets off. Pretty much how you sell your book. I once wrote a novel about a judge who tries a man for a murder that the judge committed. That was the extent of my elevator pitch. Simple, short, and concise. It was that germ of an idea that became Margot, my very first novel. And that is by the author of this guide that we're reading through.
Decide on a story structure for your novel. Various writing coaches use varying terms for common fiction elements, but they're largely similar. Every effective story will include some version of an opener, an inciting incident that changes everything, a series of crises that build tension, a climax, and end. There's no end to suggest story structures, but here are 7 popular ones. Dean Koontz's classic story structure. In medias res, the hero's journey, the 7-point story structure. Randy and Germanson's snowflake method, the 3-act structure, and James Scott Bell's disturbance and 2 doorways. For a more in-depth explanation of each, follow the links or visit the post on their story, which we will provide links in the description. Keep in mind what works for me or for us may not work for you. Peruse these and try a few on for size. Something is bound to make sense and give you a leg up on crafting your novel.
Getting to know the characters in your novel. Character development will make or break your story. Outliners have an advantage here, and pantsers would do well to learn from this. They're calling you out. Outliners tend to get to know each character by mapping out the backstories of each. They conduct imaginary interviews and simply ask the characters about themselves. Okay, well, I don't interview my characters, but readers won't likely see most of this information, but it will inform your writing. Whether you get to know your characters in advance or allow them to reveal themselves to you as you write, make them human, vulnerable, and flawed, even heroic and inspiring, but not perfect. Nobody identifies with perfection. Truth. And if you do, you're a liar.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, your hero should rise to the occasion and win against all odds. But he must grow into that from a stance of reality, humanity.
Flesh out your novel's plot. The plot of a story is the sequence of events that makes up your novel, the beginning, middle, and end, and what of the story. Plot compels your reader to either keep turning the pages or set your book aside. Using a story structure like one of the above, map out your story using one of these plot types. Adventure. A person goes to new places, experiences new things, and faces myriad obstacles. Change. A person undergoes a dramatic transformation. Romance. Jealousy and misunderstandings threaten lovers' happiness. Mistake. An innocent person caught in a situation he doesn't understand must overcome foes and dodge danger. Lure. A person must decide whether to give in to temptation, revenge, rage, or some other passion. He grows from discovering things about himself. Race. Characters chase wealth or fame, but must overcome others to succeed. And gift. An ordinary person sacrifices to aid someone else. The lead may not be aware of his own heroism until he rises to the occasion. Regardless which you choose, make every word count. Your primary goal should be to grab your reader by the throat from the get-go and never let go.
Decide on the setting for your novel. The setting of a story is one of the most important elements of writing a novel, an excellent place to practice the you be cute.
Wait, I scrolled down. Of course Oh, ubiquitous?
Yeah, that word. I don't know how to say that. Adage, show, don't tell. Setting may include location, time, or era, but it should also include how something looks, smells, feels, and sounds. Avoid simply describing the setting, especially as a separate element. Layer it in as part of the narrative part of the story. That's really important, especially on the point of view that you write. Because like my series that I'm writing is omniscient narrative, so it's like a narrative, so it's a little harder versus writing like a limited third, because limited third is more like internal behind one point of view rather than the whole cast.
Mm-hmm.
So make sure you take that into consideration too. So layer it as part of the narrative, part of the story. That way it becomes almost invisible, but suggestions of what things look and feel and sound like register in the theater of the reader's minds while they're concentrating on the action, the dialogue, the tension, and drama and conflict that keep them turning the pages.
All of the above.
That could have been broken up. That could have been broken up in 2 sentences. Thoroughly research details, but remember, this provides simply the seasoning and should not become the main course, which is the story itself.
Synopsize the chapters of your novel. Write briefly in third person, present tense, about what happens in each chapter. Leave no mysteries, teasers, or questions. So, some examples are, Jason learns his daughter has been kidnapped. At the grocery store, Sally is riveted by the best-looking man she's ever seen. Jack discovers his fiancée is cheating on him and confronts her. Also helpful, include a brief character sketch. So a sketch could even be a sentence. So, for example, John Nelson, 38, a retired mercenary and now a bodyguard, takes a call, blah, blah, blah. Synopsis can reveal fatal flaws in your story, allowing you to make the fix before you invest months in the writing. So you don't want to be like halfway through your writing and is like, wait, who's my character? Or why? Or like, okay, how did I get from here to here?
The complicated novel outline method. If you're an outliner and want to jump in with both feet, tap into the mind of Dr. Randy Ingermanson, the Sheldon Cooper of novelists. On The Big Bang Theory, Sheldon has a master's degree and 2 doctoral degrees. Randy got his MA and PhD in physics, specializing in elementary particle theory. He also did 2 years of the postgraduate work on superstring theory. He now applies that intellect to novel writing and teaching writing and has become a story outliner extraordinaire. He is also the one with the snowflake method, and you can go visit his website. Also to invest in the writing fiction for dummies. And if you're a pantser, Randy would tell you to stay far away from his method. He says outliners are outliners and pantsers are pantsers, and never the twain shall meet.
Sounds about right. So some additional story outline methods. If all that detail isn't your cup of tea, here are alternatives to consider. Reverse outline. In outlining your novel, writer coach K.M. Wayland recommends this, especially for pantsers experimenting with outlining. She advises starting at the end of the story. Ask questions to help you discover events that immediately precede each scene as you work backwards, such as, how was the character injured? Where? Why did the bad guys choose him over another character? Why didn't they kill him? Will he escape? If so, how? Answering such questions will help set up your scenes with necessary plot points. Or
I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
So, speaking of the working backwards, I did that for book 2. But the problem with it is that because I think it was 18 chapters already done. And then I went to the very last chapter, which is
44th. Or no, 30.
33.
Yeah, 33.
33. Yeah, and then I started, but then I'm like, okay. It got to the point I did 33 and then I did 32 and then I'm like, okay, it's going to be harder because then I was having a hard time finding where to start these chapters when I was starting backwards. So, if I would recommend if you are going to do backwards to completely start backwards. Don't do what I did and have all these chapters done because then you're having issues of like, okay, where? Or even like if you do your outline, write it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. That works.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
but
you're
I wanted
good.
to put my personal endpoint on that.
Another one is a mind map, which is that word again. A hierarchical diagram that visually represents the plot points, characters, themes, conflicts, and chapters in your book. There is a mind map example shared by Nina Amir from How to Blog a Book. She recommends using a separate mind map for each chapter, each character, each major event, etc. There's the Zettelkasten, which is an index card story outline method many novelists use to write brief descriptions of characters, plot points, scenes, etc., and drag and drop them as they organize their plots and story arcs. Synopsis, an informal approach to outlining that condenses the plot, characters, conflicts, and themes into a brief summary. For more on this, you can visit their blog post on how to write a compelling synopsis. There's also a beat sheet, which is a bullet-pointed or numbered list that outlines the main elements in your story, which is something I think both me and you use essay, which is a beat sheet. We just kind of bullet point everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we do that. I've learned when I went to the art school, I didn't know it was called this, but I learned the Zettelkasten, which was doing the note cards, because when I was learning how to do, I forget exactly what it was called. I want to say not like comic writing, but I had a teacher who did parody sketches for newspapers, and he told us to use the note card method if you wanted it to be like a quick story type thing.
I used to do the note cards back in the day because I had like 2 packages of them and I'm like, oh, this would be perfect. So I mean I've done that method too, but I have learned that I definitely like the bullet points because you can do like different stages of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So choose which approach that will help narrow your focus so you can get on with writing your novel. Outliners and pantsers have much to learn from each other's methods. Determine which works best for you and have fun with it.
Plot outline is like your story skeleton. It's the bones on which you hang the flesh, blood, sweat, and tears of your story. It sketches out the underlying structure of your novel, its key stages, including critical developments and pivotal moments. It doesn't list all the chapters or everything that happens in them. It sticks to the heart of the story, which is usually the personal journey of the protagonist from who they are at the beginning to who they are at the end. For some people, an outline may simply be a few ideas floating around in their head. For others, it may be 50,000 word documents. And I've seen some novel-like outlines, so that is very true. For our purposes, we'll assume a plot outline is a written document of a few pages covering key stages and turning points.
Yeah, it's basically like the summary of your summary. The most basic plot structures. So the simplest plot outline could be based on the 3-act structure, which is beginning, middle, and end. For example, your beginning could be Harry is a bullied orphan living with his aunt and uncle who mistreat him. The middle is he joins a magical school and learns of great friends, enemies, and challenges. The end is that he manages to stop an evil wizard from stealing an important artifact and returns home confident and able to stand up for himself. But that's simplistic to a point of being of limited use. So you may want to expand it onto something like the status quo, your rising action, climax, falling action, and final outcome, which we have discussed in a previous educational segment. So please go to that if you're curious about that. For many people, this is enough of a structure on which to hang the main points of their story. Using these stages will help ensure the story feels satisfying to a reader. Imagine how a reader might feel if you wrote a story with the stages in this order: climax, rising action, final outcome, falling action, status quo. It hurts just to look at it. Imagine what it would be like to read. Applying this distortion to the simplest of plot outlines makes it clear why getting the stages out of order can be confusing, unsettling, and even nonsensical. I will pause there. The climax coming first, I think, only works really well if you start the story in the climax and you're like, but how did I get here? And then you start going from the beginning to that point. That's the only time I find that it works. Otherwise...
Well, wouldn't that be kind of like... Aren't prologues kind of like that, though? Because I know, like, some prologues will start, like, very action-y, and then it'll go to chapter 1 and be like, blah, blah months ago, or this long ago.
Yeah, like, I think a good example is Eris's book.
Yep, that's who I was thinking of, too.
Yeah, her prologue started at the climax, which worked really well, because I'm like, wait, how did they get there? And then they started from the beginning. So yeah, a prologue is a good portion, as long as you do it right. So just remember that this is an important lesson, because while the diagram that many of you have probably seen if you haven't already, it is almost laughable, but it might not be so obvious when stages are out of order when using a more advanced structure. However, there's a high chance that readers will still feel less engaged and emotionally involved.
The hero's journey, the universal storyline. The most popular and widely used plot structure is probably the hero's journey, which goes something like this: ordinary world, call to adventure, refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, crossing the threshold, test Allie's enemies, approach the innermost cave, the ordeal, reward, roadblock, resurrection, returning with the elixir. In this diagram, the higher the line, the higher the tension and stakes. The dip towards the end additionally represents the loss of hope. I do have a diagram. Pretty much it's just a line graphed. So it goes like up, down, just to...
Let me see if I can... Come on. And... there we go. So it'll look like that.
In this diagram, the higher the line... Oh, I already read that. Traditional diagrams depict the hero's journey as a circle, but I find that doesn't sit right with me, as it means the end point appears to be exactly the same as the start point. To the author, the linear diagram better represents the concept. The hero returns home back to the baseline, and they are further forward than they were at the start.
So here's a very brief explanation for each of these strategies. You have the ordinary world, which is the protagonist is introduced in their normal everyday life. The call to adventure is something that happens to shake up the hero's everyday life. Refusal of the call. The hero often has doubts, just wants to stay in their safe existence. Meeting the mentor. They meet someone who gives them advice that will be useful for the coming challenges. Crossing the threshold. They change location or burn bridges in a metaphorical sense, meaning they cannot simply return to their old life as if nothing has happened. Tests, allies, and enemies. They face various challenges and make new friends. Approach the innermost cave. The hero prepares to battle terrible danger or inner conflict. The ordeal. The hero must face great demons, which could be internal or external or even both. Reward. The hero receives some kind of reward for facing their demons. Roadblock. The hero begins their journey back to everyday life. Resurrection. The greatest battle and most dangerous encounter. Return with elixir. The hero returns home triumphant. You can read the stages of the hero's journey in more detail. I'll provide the link below.
Before we go any further, let's address some questions that writers sometimes raise with regards to the hero's journeying and other plot lines. Doesn't use the set of stages stifle creativity and turn us all into repetitive automatons? What the heck did I just read? It's important to realize that each of these stages can be interpreted in an infinite number of ways, leading to an infinite variety of stories. I should have proofread some of this, because
Nah.
I didn't. At first, it's easy to be misled, especially by the wording. Oh, I'm really bad with that. Sometimes my wording placement can imply the wrong thing. That this template will force your story into a particular style. For example, at the most fundamental level, the word hero may give the impression you have to present a sword-wielding, brawny young man who belongs for adventure, but this couldn't be further from the truth. The hero just means the protagonist, and they don't have to display any traditional hero qualities at all. We are all the protagonists in our own experience, however flawed and morally questionable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, the call to adventure doesn't have to have anything to do with sirens, even kings, or sword fights. It can be anything that unsettles in ordinary life. So while the hero could be a young man longing for exciting quests, and his call to adventure could be old wizard telling him of a dragon who's kidnapped a princess, it could equally be a high school airhead who's just been dumped. Decides to go to law school with her boyfriend.
Damn, how petty is that? Oh, you're gonna dump me? Well, I'm gonna go to law school.
Oh, Legally Blonde.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
I didn't realize they were referencing movies until I read the next one. A little girl who follows the rabbit down a hole and then has to find her way home. Alice in Wonderland. Or even a widowed fish who needs to find his missing son.
That one's sad. What a sad no, not even finding his missing disabled son. And he meets someone with fucking memory loss. Oh my gosh. Genre-specific novel outline templates. And of course, people who write in specific genres are able to identify stages and elements which tend to crop up consistently within their own genres and have a positive effect on the popularity of their stories. There has been created a bunch of genre-specific plot outline templates, including romance, detective noir, character-driven hero's journey, mystery crime thriller, screenplay, and short story.
What are the benefits of writing a plot outline? Stronger first draft. If you outline your plot before you start writing, you can be confident your first draft will have a solid structure from the outset, rather than hoping for it to emerge organically or having to retroactively go and apply it. This will save time and effort when it comes to redrafting and editing towards your final manuscript.
Direction and completion. Knowing where you're going helps you get there. Writing a novel is a mammoth task, which can feel overwhelming. Having a plot outline helps break it down into manageable chunks with clear goals. It can keep you motivated and on track. It can also help free up creativity. So, contrary to stifling creativity, having a plot outline frees you up to let the words flow because you don't have to be preoccupied with the worry that you're going to write 50,000 words, then find yourself at a dead end. Me. That was literally me with Tyrant.
Oh yeah, when you were trying to hit a certain word count.
Yeah.
And you ended up going way beyond it, though, after
I
you switched
did.
that point of view.
Well, and I even had the plot outline too. It was just like you can still have your plot outline, but if you don't have your descriptors, like I didn't really have a whole lot of descriptors, then it's still going to be hard to hit that word count. So,
Yeah. What are the disadvantages of writing a plot outline? Could take away the thrill of discovery. Many writers don't want to know too much about their story before they start, as the knowing sucks out the excitement of discovering the story as they write. Which, I mean, I get that. Like with one of my fan fictions that I'm writing, I don't have an outline, plotline, nothing. I'm letting the character write his entire story. And then versus my series, I have to have an outline. I have to have a detailed outline because otherwise, with it being a series and there's a bunch of different plot holes in it, I don't want to miss those plot holes or contradict, which, I had learned that I did contradict here and there before I published. And even, I don't know if there was any caught after I published, but I know before I published, I caught some. And some successful writers report that they never plan before they start. But when you analyze their work, you will usually discover that the stages are in fact. So what gives? It's not that they're being dishonest. It's that they have absorbed these patterns from experiences of books, movies, and life and are applying them subconsciously. If you don't feel writing out a plotline works for you, then it's even more important to internalize the universal structure so you can rely on your subconscious to take care of it.
And then our favorite word of the day, procrastination. Writers can sometimes be procrastinators to professional levels, so make sure you're not doing your plot outline to death just to avoid starting your first draft. But the fact is that there are certain things that tap into our human psyche. Skilled writers will subvert and break traditional structural conventions to great effect, but it's unlikely they'll do so by accident. You have to know the rules before you can consistently break them effectively. So know about plot outlines and what they do is a great tool to have in your writer's toolbox, whether you decide to use them at the end or not. And I think we also did an educational segment on procrastination too. Is that right? Or
I think it may have been combined when we did the structures.
Yeah. So go watch that video.
How to write a plot outline. Find a plot outline that suits you. Write a few sentences for each of the stages. For each of the stages, write a few sentences or a paragraph which described how that stage manifests in your novel.
Tweak it. Read through the entire thing and make sure it flows and makes sense. Make adjustments for consistency. Ongoing improvement. As you're writing your first draft and subsequent drafts, treat your plot outline like a working document, not a set of commandments carved into stone. If it needs tweaking and updating, that's fine. You may decide to reorder the stages, add new ones, or remove some, which is very true. I do it all the time.
Mm-hmm. And then don't be too rigid. This is the last section of this outline. As with all rules of thumb, you can break the conventions to great effect. The important thing is that you know what you're doing and why, rather than just fumbling because you don't have the right tools in the first place. Following the stages fairly closely is the easiest way to take advantage of the patterns of collective unconscious. Deviating from them is to be encouraged, but you have to be aware of the impact it will have and realize you may have to work harder and use other techniques to engage the audience and keep them emotionally hooked.
Yep. So that is everything that we have for our educational segment today. All right. Well, if there's something that we didn't touch on, or if anybody has any ideas or have any questions also with like writing or what we can add with our educational segment, you're welcome to comment below. We upload on Spotify and on YouTube. We try to do it weekly. We have February planned out, so we have our fingers crossed that February is just consistent for the rest of the month. Um, Please follow us on Author Sesh Corner. Please follow us on TikTok. We need to get to 100 followers so that way we could do lives on there. So that way we could start doing more spotlights on there as well. Um, Next week we will be reading 2 chapters from our books. And then at the end of the month, we are going to be re interviewing Pandora Spencer because she has another book releasing soon. So, otherwise, please leave a like, share, comment, do what you can to get us out there. All right, we
Yep.
will see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Toodaloo.